Hey, so it's now late August. I've now had my Carrot Determination safety boots for 5 months. The last video I made was 4 weeks after I bought them. And actually Mountain, the founder and creator of Carrots, had reached out to me through email. He tried to comment on the video, but was having some issues on YouTube that wasn't allowing him to comment. So he actually sent me a time-stamped full response to all the points that I made in my previous video. So I kind of want to address the points that he made, and then what my opinions are now that I've had these boots for 5 months, some of those concerns I had at 4 weeks, and what's kind of come of those concerns. So the one big thing that I talked about in my previous video was just the sole in general, the tread and the size, the lip here. I had some concerns about that. Overall, the durability of it is holding up better than I thought, at least the treading portion of it. I thought more of these tips were gonna break off. They haven't. I did mention that the tread does pick up debris, and it does. Carrot does specify on their website for these boots that these are factory, not farm boots. I don't know where construction lands in that. I would assume that construction would kind of be categorized in with farm. So they're saying these aren't construction boots. That really limits their market reach on these. Personally, now I am wearing these in a factory, so I can't say from personal experience, but I don't know why these wouldn't work as construction boots. I really think they'd be a good construction boot. So Mountain did say that they are going to change up the tread in the next iteration, next design of this boot. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. I would imagine they're probably just going to open up. He did mention that he intentionally designed these to be smaller for better traction in a factory, but curious to see what the next iteration looks like. I mentioned in my last video that I thought the sole was cracking at that point right there. It's not. Mountain specified that that's rather just the weld line in the sole, and it hasn't gotten worse. There is a crack that I do want to get into here in a moment in the sole. I mentioned one issue that I've had in a lot of boots. Almost every pair of boot that I've ever worn, one of the first places the boot starts to wear out is on the inside, right behind the heel, right back here. That'll start to wear out, and whatever plastic they're using for form will start to poke through. Literally the pair of boots that I replaced with these, I had them for 7 months or so, and that's what was happening. That broke through, it was rubbing on the back of my heel, and it annoyed the mess out of me. The inside of these shoes are holding up beautifully. There is virtually no signs of wear and tear other than wrinkles. Really the way that's holding up, the material that they use in here, it's super durable. One thing that's really impressing me, I mentioned that I was curious to see how these leather boots would handle in the hot days of the summer, working in the factory. And I am pleasantly surprised. So for some context, I wear these Zero Scramblers waterproofs. These are my shoe, my everyday shoe. When I'm out on a long day in these shoes, if I'm hiking or fishing or whatever, when I take the shoes off, they stink. It's like wearing a bag on your foot. So a combination of the non-natural materials that they use and the fact that it's waterproof, it holds sweat into your foot. Super duper comfortable shoes. I love these shoes. I don't really have any desire to replace them, but that is one major downside of these. I kind of thought that's what was going to happen with these. Now, these aren't advertised as waterproof boots. These are water resistant. And because they are natural leather, I just got home a little bit ago I wear these shoes 5 days a week, anywhere. Well, I put the shoe on at 5 o'clock in the morning when I get ready to go to work, and I'm home normally 5 o'clock at night, if not later. So I'm in these boots 12 hours a day. It smells like leather. Both of these shoes, honestly, it smells like clean leather. The insole smells like leather. It doesn't hold odor. It doesn't hold moisture inside the shoe as much as I thought. These shoes, honestly, like, I have not worn these today. I wore these yesterday. I can kind of smell them just being that far away. I don't want to stick my face up to those. So these breathe a lot better than I thought they were going to. And wearing these in hot conditions is not as much of an issue as I thought it was going to be. He did mention that they are going to look at changing the insole. I mentioned that I wasn't sure if I was going to want to replace this. He said that these are currently EVA wrapped in leather, and he's looking at going with more of a higher density material like latex. After 5 months of wearing the shoe, I don't have any desire to replace this. Maybe the latex would be better, a little bit more cushioning, but after a 10-hour day on my feet, I'm really not bothered by these. I mentioned repeatedly in my last videos that if Carrot came out with a low top version of this, I would wear it, or I would buy it right now. And that's probably maybe not as true as it was back then. I've gotten used to the high top, but I still ain't crazy about it. Just one thing, if Carrot is marketing these as a factory boot, you walk around the factory that I work at, and any factory I've ever been in, the vast majority of shoes that you'll see on people's feet are tennis shoe style safety shoes. So I'm excited to see if they come out with the low top version. Mountain and I conversed back and forth a little bit, talk about the heights that I would prefer, so I'm curious to see what they come out with. I also mentioned in one of my first videos was that point right there was kind of it created like a pinch point on top of my foot. That's not an issue now. I assumed that as the leather broke in, that wouldn't really be a problem anymore. And it's not. I don't feel it anymore. Mountain did say that it has to do with the amount of volume that's over the foot, that it leaves too much room. But it's with it being a safety toe, I don't really know how much they could change that, or if they're going to. The other thing that he talked about was the stitching around this insole, or I'm sorry, the stitching around the sole, that the next iteration that they are going to recess that stitching. He didn't specifically say this, but I hope what that means is that this little lip here will go away and that the sole will be flush with the side of the shoe. This is the #1 complaint I have with this boot, and it's actually causing this. The actual sole is splitting. Now the stitching is what's stopping the splitting. You can see inside of there that it's actually stopping at the stitching, and I hope it doesn't go any further past that. But what I believe is causing that is because that sticks out further than where my heel actually sits inside the shoe, it creates an unnatural pivot point on the back side and front side, and my foot is trying to roll over that. So it's causing that splitting. Both of my shoes are doing it. I've actually seen a couple other reviews where people didn't specifically call that out, but if you look at the shoe, you can see their sole is starting to split. So hopefully they will fix that. The other complaint I had, it was a minor one, was that the D-rings are cutting into the laces. You can see there, that's cutting into the laces. But if you go back to my 4-week review, that is about as bad as it looked. I saw in another video where Mountain had commented, and now it's on the website. I don't believe this was on the website when I first bought the boots, but these laces have Kevlar in them. So essentially the top layer of fabric is ripping but it's getting down to that Kevlar on the inside and it's not tearing past that. So even if I had to replace these, it's not that big of a deal. But Mountain did say they are going to replace all of the metal here with plastic eyelets, so they don't rust and they'd be less susceptible to tearing the laces. Now, here's the big question. It sounds like from the email that he sent me and some comments that he left on some other review videos that they are going to work on a redesign or another version of this boot. So if you are in the market for this boot, do you buy now or do you wait to see what this next version looks like? To clarify, I don't know what the timeline is. I don't know when the new version is going to be available. The reason I went and bought these shoes and why I would go out and buy these shoes again if I had to, I was wearing, for about 6 months before I bought these shoes, I was wearing barefoot shoes in every other asset of my life. I bought these to wear every day outside of work. I bought a barefoot style weightlifting shoe that I wear in the gym. So my foot was starting to adapt to wearing barefoot shoes. And then I would go to work in the morning, I'd put my shoe on, and all of the progress I'm making with getting my foot back into a natural shape, I would lose all that progress every day when I put my regular work boot back on. And because my foot was kind of starting to get used to these, my work boots were hurting me even more than they were before I bought barefoot shoes. If you are in that camp, buy this boot now. It is a great boot. It is fantastic as it is. It's the most comfortable boot I've ever worn in my life. I don't see anything wrong with these that's bad enough that says you need to wait to the next version. If you're not yet wearing barefoot shoes and you're looking to start wearing barefoot shoes, number one, I wouldn't start with the boot. What made me transitioning to this boot, or what made transitioning to this boot easier for me, was that I was transitioning in tennis shoes first. So my foot got used to barefoot shoes in tennis shoes and in normal activity. And then when I made that transition to a barefoot shoe at work, where I'm under more stress, it made transitioning to these a lot easier. So if you have not made that transition to barefoot shoes yet, number one, don't start with boots. Start with tennis shoes outside of work. Number two, you probably got some time. Again, I don't know what the timeline looks like for when they're going to come out with another version of this boot, but maybe you will have the time, and by the time you're ready to buy barefoot work boots, they will have another version out. If you go out and buy some barefoot tennis shoes now, and then 2 months, 3 months, 4 months down the road, your work boots are really bugging you, like you were in the same situation I was in, and the next version isn't out yet, this is a great boot. I cannot recommend it enough. And the fact that this boot is so good now, I'm really curious to see what this next version looks like. If they're going to improve upon this, that next version is going to be fantastic. I can't wait to see what it looks like. If they come out with a low top version, my wife will probably kill me, but I'll probably buy a low top version tomorrow if they put it on the market. So again, the few issues I have with the boot are minimal. The biggest concern I have right now is that splitting, and the way that the heel doesn't quite, or the sole doesn't quite give you a natural pivot point on the toe and heel. It's really the most annoying thing with these shoes. Everything else, from the durability to them to the overall comfort, it's fantastic. It is the best boot I've ever worn.